Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Mindy Eggen. In today's video, I'm going to be creating 3 magical backgrounds featuring the My Monthly Hero Kit for July 2021 from Hero Arts. The kits from Hero Arts are always jam-packed with goodies to create tons of cards. So this month we have a large 6x8 stamp set featuring some really great images of gnomes and fairies and little elements to create your scene. Also with some really fun sentiments like you are fairy kind, there's no place like home or gnome depending on your image. There is also 18 coordinating frame cuts. In this kit, you'll also be getting 3 dye inks, and these are in the mini ink cubes featuring Green Hills, Soft Purple, and Pale Tomato. There is some mushroom washi tape and Stardust sequence. Now here's a closer look at the products in the kit. You could see mine is well loved. I was playing with some different ideas. This is the Stardust sequence, which is beautiful. They're like iridescent stars. And then for the washi tape, you can use this to decorate your card. I love using washi tape, especially when it coordinates, by using it on my envelopes. So that's always a really fun way to use up your washi tape. I'm going to start off my first card by doing some ink blending. So I have some dove white cardstock cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm ink blending on Pool Party ink, which is a reactive ink. The reactive inks are really fun to use, especially when using some sort of like magical background because they are reactive to water, and I will show you that in just a moment. My second color I'm ink blending on is the blue raspberry. And then I'm topping it off with Purple Galaxy. And I do go back over my colors quite a bit to make sure that there's kind of a seamless blend in there. And I'm just using a sponge dauber or a sponge foam blending tool to do the ink blending. I like to use the foam when I'm doing an entire background, and I like using the blending brushes when I want more of a softer look. Once this is all ink blended, I am going to just spritz some clean water onto my glass surface, pick that up with a paintbrush, and just sprinkle that all over my background. And I use 2 different size brushes. I have a small brush, and then I bring in a bigger brush to have bigger speckles on the background. And I'm going to let that dry for a moment. Now, I am a huge, huge fan of Heroscapes, so I thought the Meadow Heroscape would match perfectly with this month's kit. You can certainly use the kit on its own, but I think these are just so great together. I'm starting with stamping that base layer in Fresh Lawn ink, and then I'm going to bring in the second layer with Pine. And I am stamping this actually multiple times off screen, just in different colors you'll see in a moment. But the Pine is just a darker one, and I stamped that about 2 or 3 times. Now this particular background here, that bright green, is Green Apple and Fresh Lawn. And then for the flowers, or the third layer of my stamp image, I'm using a few variety of the ombre inks. This one is Pink to Red. I also stamped this third layer in Ombre Tide Pool to Navy and Ombre Hydrangea. So just depending on kind of the feel of my backgrounds, I just wanted to have a variety of colors for these flowers. Now, once I have all of these backgrounds stamped and die cut out, I'm going to work on a focal point on my background. I wanted to have a moon for this. So I die cut out one of the infinity circles using some masking magic, which is just a masking paper. You could also die cut it from just regular cardstock and temporarily adhere that to your background. But the masking magic is really great because it's not going to rip your paper. Then I placed that onto my card, and I'm ink blending on Orchid ink, and I'm using a blending brush to do this, starting from the center and blending out. I just want to have a really light hue of color around my moon. Now I don't go too far out with that color either. I just want to have just that light ring around the moon, and I'm going to carefully remove that masking paper with my tweezers. Now you're going to see this kind of gets lost in the background a little bit. So I'm going to bring in the Reactive Sea Salt ink and my blending foam tool. And I'm just doing light circles right in the middle. That's going to lighten it up a little bit. I like using the Reactive Sea Salt versus the Unicorn Pigment ink because it's not as bright. It's just really, really soft and helps set that moon aside from the background. Now this is where you're going to start seeing how well the Meadow Heroscape and the kit match up this month. I lined up my Meadow Heroscape in the background and some images from the kit. And I'm just using that as a placeholder to be able to put my sentiment and some additional images. So these are the silhouette of the fairies from the Meadow Heroscape. And I love silhouette images, especially on blended backgrounds. So once those are lined up, I'm inking them in VersaFine ink. I'm going to let that dry for just a moment because VersaFine ink stays wet for a little longer. Once that's dry, I'm going to pop up my Meadow Heroscape with some foam tape that's going to add a little bit of dimension and separate my background from my Meadow Heroscape. Then I can bring in my mushroom house and my little tree stump. I'm adding just a little bit of foam tape to the top of the mushroom, and the rest I'll adhere with my tape runner. And for the tree stump, I'm going to have that hanging off the edge a little bit, so I'll apply that with a tape runner. Flip this over and just trim off any of the excess. Now, also in the kit is that beautiful Stardust sequence, and they are tiny, so I just put them in a little embellishment tray, and I am picking them up with an embellishment wand and just placing little dots of glue and attaching those little Stardust sequins. This just kind of helps add that magical touch to the front of the card. And that's going to finish off this card, combining the kit with the Meadow Heroscape. If you don't have the Meadow Heroscape, you could always maybe use some stencils. If you have some grassy stencils, I think would look really great with this as well. So I have a few other backgrounds that I wanted to share with you that I created for more cards because I stamped the Meadow Heroscape quite a few times. So this background is using the Lemon Drop Reactive ink. I'm also going to use Taffy and Purple Galaxy, and this is going to make for a really bright background. I just love having bright backgrounds and the contrast of color between them. Once again, I do go back and forth between the colors to help blend those together. And then also adding splatters of water to these backgrounds since they are the reactive inks, and I think that just helps kind of contribute to the magical background that I'm trying to create. And then once again, I'll be placing my moon on here to do a little bit of ink blending, using one of those Meadow Heroscapes as kind of a placeholder so I know how high to put that moon up. This time I'm going to put it about center of my card. And then for this one, I am going to use a bubblegum ink from Hero Arts. When I'm picking a color to kind of ink blend around that moon, I'm picking something I'm always keeping in mind what's going to match the card so that when I blend it, it's not going to make mud, but also stand out from the background. And I think the bubblegum ink really worked well for this because it matches with purple and also stands out from that yellow that's towards the bottom. So once again, starting in the middle and just carefully blending out really lightly. Then I can remove that with my tweezers and once again bring in that reactive sea salt. This is such a really fun technique to do moons. I really need to remember to do this in the future because having those water spots in the background also kind of helps give more of a realistic moon. Now, because I had kind of some yellows and pinks in here, I went with the Meadow Heroscape that has the pink in it, which matches really well. And this time I'm using some silhouettes of butterflies and also the fairy, and stamping those once again in the VersaFine black ink, making sure to let that sit for a moment or two to let that dry. And then I can attach once again that mushroom house, which is off of the My Monthly Hero Kit for July of 2021. And now this time, when I was Copic coloring these images, the red kind of bled into those white spots. So you could always color those spots with Copic markers, or I like to take a white Jelly Roll pen and fill those in. And I did that. I went back and did that to my first card as well. So that finishes off these two where it's combining the Meadow Heroscape with the My Monthly Hero Kit. Now I also have some cards that I created just kind of on its own with the Meadow Heroscape. This is a background I used Lemon Drop, Key Lime Fizz, and Green Apple reactive inks. And I really love how those water spots stand out against that bright green background. Now this time I am using a dark green to do some ink blending around my moon. And then back to adding that reactive sea salt ink. Now also in the Meadow Heroscape are these little kind of fairy dust trail images that I thought were really pretty. So once I had stamped down my fairies and my sentiment and stamped them in that VersaFine ink, I'm going to add this little trail of fairy dust. And then to kind of really bump up that background and draw your attention to kind of the images of the card, I'm going to ink blend around the images with navy ink. And this is quite dramatic. So you could have left this color off, but I really love how that blue mixes with the green and just really pulls your attention to the images and the sentiment. And then once again, just adding in that Meadow Heroscape. This one I had stamped in some blues and purples. And then here's a quick look at the 3 cards I just created. I'm also going to have individual pictures over on my blog along with a supply list. Now there is another card I created off screen. I was playing with my gel pressed and some of the watercolors, and I love how this background came out, but I could not figure out how to recreate it. But I still wanted to share it because I think it was just really neat texture that was added to the background. And then one more card that I created was using purples. So this is just an ink blended background using a variety of purples and stamping the images onto that background. So there is some inspiration using the My Monthly Hero kit and also combining the Meadow Heroscape. I hope you enjoyed today's video. All of the supplies will be listed down below in the video description and over on my blog as well. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again real soon.